Hey y'all, and welcome to the Grand Canyon. We have been here for 2 days, and I'm going to tell you, no movie, no picture, any photograph or painting is going to do this place justice. You've got to come to the Grand Canyon, put it on your bucket list, and check it off. And to help you do that, I have created a list from our experience here to try to help you plan your best Grand Canyon vacation. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to tell you is get yourself an America the Beautiful Park Pass. This is a pass from the National Park Service that is going to get you into every single national park in the United States for a year. And the pass is good for your entire car. So right now, as of 2022, the pass is 80 bucks. It gets your entire car into every single national park all year long. That is a money saver if I've ever seen one. To get into the Grand Canyon for just a regular old private car, it's gonna cost you about $35. So if you think about national parks, if you're gonna hit up more than one in the year, definitely look into this America the Beautiful Pass. I think it'll save you a lot of money. The biggest tip I have when you get that pass though is don't leave it at home like we did. It's my fault. Left it at home this trip. So we did have to pay that $35. I have heard of some people saying that once they get back home, if they get in touch with the National Park Service, they can get refunded. I'm not counting on that. And if anything, I'm just giving more money back to the National Park Service to help conserve this place. So I'm not really mad about it, but definitely if you get the pass, you need to bring it with you, and you need to bring your identification with you as well. I just want you to note the $35 fee that we paid to get in here is good for a 7-day pass, so it's not just good for that one day. It does help kind of offset the cost when you think about $35 maybe to get into each national park. At least for the Grand Canyon, it is for 7 days. So we came in yesterday and we could flash that same receipt. If you buy a pass, you need to keep the receipt that they give you. That's the only way you can prove the next day when you come back in that you have the pass. If you throw that receipt away, you gotta pay again. Definitely keep that receipt, that way you can get in every day for the next 7 days. Okay, let's talk about transportation to the Grand Canyon. There's a couple of different things you can do. First off, if you're staying in Tusayan, which is a town right outside the Grand Canyon, you can take the shuttle bus from Tusayan into the Grand Canyon. This is gonna drop you off at the Visitor Center. Shuttle buses are available throughout the Village, Market Plaza, and the Visitor Center and Tusayan, but the route times are a little different for each, so let me break it down for you. Inside the park, shuttles run every 10 to 15 minutes, and they start about an hour before sunrise and stop about an hour before sunset. The Tusayan shuttle runs every 20 minutes, starting at 8 a.m. at the IMAX in town, and it ends at 9:45 p.m. The map you're given at the entrance says that it also will pick you up from a few other places in Tusayan, but I do suggest you check the website that I've linked in the description below to be sure these shuttle bus stops and times haven't changed. The shuttle is included with your fee into the park, so keep that in mind. If you did pay to get into the park, you can get on and off these shuttle buses to get you around, and I believe that it's the same trying to get back and forth from Tusayan. As of today, April 2022, masks are still required to ride the shuttle buses. Now, if you decide to rent a car like we did, from Tusayan, you're just gonna get on Highway 64 and go north. I mean, there's nowhere else you can go off this road. You're gonna run right into the entrance for the Grand Canyon. If you drive your own car in, parking lots 1 through 4 will be near the Visitor Center, and it's best if you want to check out the eastern side of the park, including Mather Point and the Geology Museum. Lots A and B are in the Market Plaza area with Yavapai Lodge and Mather Campground. It also has a general store. Lots C and D will be on the western side of the park, closer to the Village. Here you'll find Hobby House, El Tovar Hotel, which I believe is about over 100 years old, so you really got to check that out. It's so cool. And several other lodges are here as well. In the same area, you'll also find the train depot, as well as the famous Bright Angel Trailhead. If you watched my Grand Canyon travel video, you'll see that we parked in the D lot and we spent most of our day on the red line checking out the western side of the Village. I'm gonna link that video below so that you can watch it next. And I know I mentioned a train, and yes, there is a train that will bring you in from Williams, Arizona to the Grand Canyon National Park. Now, I think the next time we come, I probably want us to hop on this train and kind of get a feel of what it might have been like in the early 1900s to come out and ride a train to get to the Grand Canyon National Park. The train departs daily from Williams, Arizona at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time and returns at 5:45 p.m., except for November and December when it leaves at 8:30 a.m. and returns at 4:45 p.m. So this is going to give you about 3 hours to enjoy the park. I feel like this might be a fun idea if you've already been to the Grand Canyon before, or maybe you only have a short day and you're not able to rent a car to get out here. I think it would be really fun to get on the train, come out here. Any view that you come across of the Grand Canyon is just gonna blow your mind. Okay, next let's talk about food and drinks. Now in the park you're gonna find everything from small bites, snacks, chips, hot dogs. There is a steakhouse and a reservation required fine dining at El Tovar Hotel. It may help you save some time and money to maybe pre-pack at the general store in Tusayan. They've got stuff to make sandwiches and snack items, but you will also find the food and drink options in the park as well if you didn't do that. Some of these places in the park do require reservations and some are only open just a few hours a day. So again, I'm gonna put a link in the video description below. Check that out and make sure that if there's a place that you want to go to, maybe you can make reservations ahead of time, or at least you'll know what hours they're open. We definitely worked up an appetite walking about 7 miles. And we use the shuttle a lot, and it still put that many steps in. So definitely prepare before you come. Now, as far as the time of the day to come to the park, we arrived at the park yesterday at about 9 a.m. We did stay till about 6 p.m. and I found that when we got here at 9 a.m., there were still enough places to park. You weren't fighting for a place. We found that the village became more crowded after about 11 a.m. and it cleared out more around 6 p.m. Now, especially coming during the summer months when school's out and it's hot, tourist congestion and the heat can become overwhelming. I really recommend visiting in the cooler months like spring, maybe April through May, or maybe waiting until it starts cooling off in October and November. Especially in the summertime, you need to have a plan in place to not get overheated or dehydrated. I recommend bringing a large refillable water bottle or maybe even a hydration bladder. There are several refilling stations and you can find these on the park map, but these stations aren't usually open during the winter months, so work that into your plans if you want to come somewhere between November through March. These refilling stations use fresh Grand Canyon spring water and it tastes delicious. The south rim of the Grand Canyon, which is where we're at right now, is the most visited, and a lot of this is due to the location to the larger airports closer to places like Phoenix or maybe Las Vegas, but also because it's the rim that's open year-round. The north rim that you're seeing on the other side of the canyon is closed for winter, so check the park dates on the Grand Canyon website if you plan to visit the North Rim on your visit. Of course, crowds are going to be heavier here in the village and market areas. They're also going to be heavier during the summer months when school is out. Crowds become more sparse when you get out on the trails. We found it a lot nicer once we moved away from the village and got out closer to the end of the red line near Hermit's Rest. Hey y'all, Future Stacy here. This is going to be a bonus tip for you because if you have the time and if you're like us and you've rented a car, set aside a little chunk of time to drive down Desert View Drive. This is roughly a 20-mile stretch of road and it is absolutely breathtaking. It has some beautiful scenic overlooks and I'm going to tell you, there's no crowds out here. Where we started this video was one of the scenic overlooks on Desert View Drive, and there's nobody out here that you're having to compete with to either get a look at the Grand Canyon or shoot a video. So definitely, if you're able to, take this drive. It's totally worth it. And that's where we're headed right now, where I'll continue giving you all my tips for planning your trip to the Grand Canyon. Speaking of trails, there is one rule I keep seeing on the maps here, and that is to know your abilities and, more importantly, know your limits. Many people believe they are strong hikers, but hiking in the Grand Canyon isn't easy. Park Services recommend seeking advice from a park ranger or visit the Backcountry Information Center and discuss which trails might be best for you and your abilities. Now, many say the Rim Trail is easy as a lot of it is paved, but for someone like me who is very afraid of heights, parts of it just weren't for me. This trail isn't flat and there are some areas of incline that will have you really squeezing those glutes and working up a sweat. Others, like the Bright Angel Trail, is steep it's not paved, and it can become kind of crowded. Preparing before and doing a deep dive into the trail conditions and admitting your limits to yourself will ensure that you have a safer trip. Now, that being said, there are sections of the rim trail, for instance, that are mobility friendly, given that they are paved wider and they're not overlooking the cliff edge. Now, this section still has a little bit of an incline, but it may be easier to navigate for those in wheelchairs. We walked the mile-long mobility accessible Greenway Trail. It did take us about 20 minutes and it had beautiful views, even though it's not right next to the edge. But again, it is a mile, so be sure that you can navigate that length because there isn't a shuttle pickup along the route. Oh, and about pets. Pets are only allowed on the rim trail and the Greenway Trail. They need to be leashed at all times. Now, there is a kennel if you want to board them while you hike, and all that info can be found on the Grand Canyon website. Now, let me touch on some general park rules real quick before I give you suggestions on planning your perfect day to the Grand Canyon. First, you need to pace yourself and definitely beat the heat. Come during cooler months and plan for water and food so that you can avoid getting dehydrated. Remember, the South Rim's elevation and dry climate may affect you in a negative way. Wear and reapply that sunscreen often, and even our visit when it's 30 degrees outside, snowing and cloudy, Jeff still got a sunburn on his face. That being said, pay attention to the weather. If thunder and lightning is in the area, you need to seek shelter inside a building or a vehicle if you can't get to a building first. Do not stand under any trees. This just puts you at risk to being struck by lightning. Keep in mind, trails can be slick, so wear footwear with good tread meant for trails. You may need some foot traction like crampons if you're coming during the icy months. Another rule that you'll see all over the park, do not feed the animals. Your food and water can carry illness that can affect these animals in a negative way. Plus, it teaches them to rely on humans for food instead of going out and foraging in the wilderness like they should be. Not to mention, you can also be bitten by animals like squirrels, and that carries plague. You can also be attacked by larger animals like elk. The National Park Service suggests staying at least 2 bus lengths away from any of these animals to avoid getting hurt. This next rule is a big one, and you can see it's very windy out here. There are no guardrails. Stay away from the cliff edges. You need to keep watch on your children and make sure you know where they're at all times. You know, like I said, there's no guardrails here, so if you're not watching your kids, they very well could go over the edge, especially if there's a gust of wind. People can and do die visiting destinations around the world, so follow the safety guidelines and ensure that you're alive long enough to go back home and tell the story about your vacation. The next tip that they suggest is don't take anything away from the park, and definitely don't leave anything that you brought into the park. The general rule when you're on any trail is pack it in and pack it out. So if you bring something into the park, especially trash, you need to make sure that it's coming back out with you. And definitely leave anything that you see here, rocks, plants, animals, leave it here for other people to enjoy in the future. Do not leave your markings on anything. I've seen graffiti and it's just very sad. Don't leave your name or carve your name or write your name on anything. Just leave it as it is. It's beautiful already. It doesn't need your artwork. The last tip in this, drones are prohibited. I know that you want to bring your drone and get some beautiful overhead footage. Hey, so do we. But drones are prohibited and illegal in pretty well all national parks that I've seen so far. These national parks usually do require very special permits. They are very expensive. It's why we don't have one. So if you're very insistent on using your drone in the national parks, contact the National Park Service first and kind of figure out what you need to do that. So here's the big tips for planning your perfect day depending on how much time you have in the national park. If you only have a couple of hours, I really suggest coming in, looking around the village, and then checking out the rim trail. You're really going to see a lot of the Grand Canyon views from here. It also has your places to go to the bathroom, get food and drinks, stuff like that, fill your water bottles. So really, if you've only got a couple of hours, I would suggest sticking around the village, check out the rim trail. It's breathtaking. If you have a little bit more time, like maybe you have half a day or a day, you could do like we did. We came in, we kind of parked our car around the village area, and then we took the shuttle out to Hermit's Rest. That was a beautiful, breathtaking view. And like I said, the further you get out away from like the village and the visitor center, the less crowded it's gonna be. So we really found that once we got out to Hermit's Rest, you weren't fighting people for a view or to take a picture or whatever you want to do. You could sit there and have a picnic with your food and just kind of enjoy the Grand Canyon on your own. If you happen to have a full day here at the Grand Canyon, or maybe even more than a day, come out here to the Desert View Watchtower. This watchtower has been a historical landmark, and it was constructed in 1932. It was designed by Mary Coulter. You would notice that the Hoppy House is also designed by Mary Coulter, and it's based on the architecture of the ancestral Puebloan people of the Southwest. As I've said before, this is one of the many videos I have put out about the Grand Canyon. Make sure you check out those videos. I'm gonna put them down in the description of this video below. Of course, I would love to know your Grand Canyon tips. Put those down in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. I promise you, the moment you lay your eyes on this magnificent wonder of the world, it's going to take your breath away. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like it and subscribe for more videos. We've got a lot coming up. We're going to Page, Arizona today. We're gonna see Horseshoe Bend. After that, we're gonna be going to Moab for a few days, and we're gonna have so much fun. Can't wait to share those adventures with you. Safe and beautiful travels. Bye.